keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. Ooh. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only go.
What's going on, guys? Jay Cam back with another video, and today I'm going to be doing the Jaguars 7 round mock draft. This is actually one that was requested in the comments, so I'm going to be fulfilling that. If there's any other teams that you would like for me to do a 7 round mock draft this week before the NFL draft, please comment down below and let me know. But before we get into it, please make sure to like the video and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content, and make sure to comment down below anything you think about some of the picks I'm going to be doing. So looking at the Jaguars here, they actually have a lot of picks, mostly in the late rounds. They do have 10 overall picks. That's some of the most in this draft class, and some of their overall needs. They clearly need interior defense line, and hopefully at the number 5 pick, really what we're thinking is Mason Graham. I do think that there is an outside possibility that could be Jalen Walker or Tyler Warren possibly. Those are two of the shocking picks that could end up happening. And in the middle rounds slash later rounds, we're also looking to hopefully pick up an offensive tackle, a cornerback, maybe another receiver, and then hopefully a rotational edge piece. But overall, we're going to be going for best player available for the Jaguars team. Hopefully on that defensive side, hopefully we can be able to fill a couple of holes in this 7 round mock. And before I start it, obviously, if somebody's there at number 5 that is clearly not going to be there, like a Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, I'm not going to pick them because they're probably not going to be available at number 5. They're probably going to go 2 and 3. So if they're available at number 5, I'm not going to be picking them. Or if I get Cam Ward or Travis Hunter is there, I'm not going to trade back for a QB needy team because Cam Ward will not be there. He'll be the number 1 overall pick. So looking at this. This actually looked mostly realistic. Obviously, Abdul Carter's still there, so we're not going to use and take Abdul Carter because he would probably go number 3 here to the Giants. But that kind of takes Jalen Walker off the board, so we can't really take him. So really, if this was the real life situation, they would take Abdul Carter. But the situation, it would be between Mason Graham probably. It would be between Tyler Warren, maybe even Armand Membu a little bit. They do need a little bit of tackle help. They still do have Walker Little in there at left tackle who's had injury history, and they still do have Anton Harrison, who's actually a former first round pick for them. So Tyler Warren could be an interesting pick. You know, they have Strange who came in a little bit towards the end of the year. They actually went out and signed a tight end as well. They did end up releasing Evan Ingram, so maybe that could be an improvement piece for him. But overall, I think we all think it's going to be Mason Graham. The interior of their defense line need help. It was one of the worst in the NFLs. They do have Eric Armstead, but he's been kind of a disappointment over the last couple of years, ever since the 49ers drafted him. They do have their edge pieces kind of figured out, so they're kind of looking to help out their interior, and I think that's going to be Mason Graham here, who there's a lot of questions around him with his, height and weight. He is a little bit smaller than what people thought coming at the combine. But if you look at the tape, he's really been a big focus and big disruptor on tape for Michigan. Been one of their better players ever since he's came in, and that's who we're gonna end up picking here at number 4. And we're gonna hope at 36 take best player available, whether it's one of the offensive tackles falling, whether it's one of the cornerbacks that may end up falling, maybe even one of the wide receivers and one of the edge pieces could be a nice little rotation to add there to Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. But I think at this point we're kind of solidified with the top 5 picks in the draft on Thursday. We kind of think it's going to be Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. Uh, Will Campbell and then Mason Graham to the Jaguars. So we'll see if there's any shocking picks in there. I think Nick and Warrior would be a great fit here, but obviously this really isn't updated, and I think he would kind of be a first round pick no matter what. Connerly, somebody that could fall. Donovan Jackson, someone that could fall to him. Looking at their interior, they have Patrick McCarry, who is someone that needs to kind of get better. Luke Fortner at center kind of ended up being a disappointment for him. He hasn't really played too well. Ezra Cleveland's actually been pretty good for him. So I think Donovan Jackson or Josh Connerly could be one of the two that could end up be a great fit for here to potentially be one of the starting tackles. Josh Simmons still on the board. I don't know if I would take him because I don't know if he's going to be available here. I don't know how realistic to do these or not. Azariah Thomas from Florida State would be a great option. Benjamin Morris, one of the receivers, Ariante Ersaray would be a great pick for him. There's many a great picks here, and we do have to wait a little bit. We have to wait about 24 picks to our next one, so it's really going to be a serious pick here. Looking at I think there's some depth with the edge that we could wait on. Hopefully, get Olu here at the edge piece to add. There's also some depth here at corner that's still available. Hopefully, Darian Porter would be available at that 70 pick. I think that would be a great pick for him to be able to take. You could double dip at defensive line, but I think that we could wait. Maybe a Shamar Turner, maybe available. A Deion Walker would be interesting if he's still available. He's kind of slid down. Interior offense line. I'm gonna go ahead with him on the board. I know this may be a little bit unrealistic and it'd be more Josh Connerly, but we're gonna go ahead and take Josh Simmons. He's a potential franchise tackle. He's a guy that in this class could have been the number one tackle off the board. If he didn't get hurt, he did end up missing 6 games. Or he ended up only playing 6 games and he ended up getting injured and missing the rest of the year. But obviously that happened. I think Josh Connerly is the more realistic option that would be there. I don't think Josh Simmons would be available, but we're gonna go ahead and take him here. And then look at the edge. Like I said, the edge is very deep part of the class, and a lot of them are still available here. We may look to add a rotational piece to the edge. We could also look at Darian Porter's kind of the main guy I want to pick up for him because I think he could be a great boundary option for him. They do have Tyson Campbell, who's more of that slot type option along with the outside. He kind of switches around. They do need another corner. Let's look at the depth of the cornerback position. Denzel Burke's a good option. Quincy Riley's a good later option along with Kobe Bryant. Looking at these and where the board is, I definitely Landon Jackson's enticing. Jack Sawyer. Jonah, let me try to get it right. I always mispronounce it. Savani Nahi is a great option for him. Shamar Turner. Harold Fannin is a great option to add another tight end along with Bryant. I'm gonna look at the edge, so it looks like a lot of the edge has fallen. I think Landon Jackson, he is that typical kind of third down pass rusher that you might want, and that could be along with, but Jack Sawyer could be a nice run defender for him. We're gonna go with Landon Jackson to add to that rotation, to add with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, so that you can have a fresh rotation in there at the edge piece at all time. And we're gonna hope that maybe Darian Porter falls to us here, and he is there, and that's gonna be the perfect option for us. And I don't think we're gonna be looking around for very long. We do have to wait a little bit in the between picks here. I think Harold Fannin, maybe he could fall, but I highly doubt it. But Darian Porter is a guy that could be going in the early second round. Here he just falls to us, and he's a great pick to go along with Tyson Campbell. That's someone that I really actually wanted, and I think is a great fit for Jacksonville in these mid-round options, or maybe even in the early second. But we have a little bit here, so a lot of these guys are really going to come off the board. Isaiah Bond could be an interesting one to get another wide receiver option. Terrence Ferguson. Looking at our wide receivers, we do have Thomas, obviously one of the best breakout years out of the rookie wide receivers. Gabe Davis still, but he was kind of a disappointment for him. Let's look at the receivers. Isaiah Bond could be an interesting one. He kind of fell off at Texas. He says injury history, but I think it kind of falls off after him. Torrey Holton's an interesting one. Looking at tight ends, I do want to address the tight end, but I think that we could wait. Terrence Ferguson obviously is one that it does kind of fall off after him, even though Jackson Halls could be an interesting option. A guy that I really like in this class really later and maybe could even go undrafted is Gavin Bartholomew. If you look at his stats at Pittsburgh, he had a crazy year stat wise at Pittsburgh, and then at the combine he came in and he showed out at the combine. Um, he's really an interesting option for us. We could even double dip at interior of the offensive line or offensive tackle, depending. Connor Williams, Emory Jones could be guys that we can end up double dipping on, or looking at the interior of some of these guys. Seth McClayon, could be an interesting one. Looking at corner, you could also double dip at corner. Zach Frazier. Linebacker, obviously, Kobe King is a great option that's still on the board. Might be a little bit of a reach. Interior defensive line we could double dip on. Ty Hamilton would be a great one for us. But I think that we're gonna go with the weapon here to add to Brian Thompson and add a speed threat in there that could run out of the slot. And we're gonna add Isaiah Bond to the offense to try to get Trevor Lawrence a little bit more options and a little bit more weapons here. And we're gonna hope that Terrence Ferguson ends up falling to be as he gets picked, so he's not gonna be there. Never mind on that one. And look at 126. How many more picks do we have? We still have five more picks here. So we do have quite a bit of picks. We still do have Emory Jones on the board. He's kind of fallen for value, and hopefully I can get these ads off the screen. They're taking up the entire screen. So look at interior offensive line. Emory Jones still there at tackle. A couple of these corners are still on the board. We don't have to wait a really long time, so we can kind of wait some of the corners. And I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take another interior piece to go along with Mason Graham. Would he be there at 126 or 142? I'm gonna go ahead and take Deion Walker. Deion Walker was a guy that was seen that he could potentially be a first round pick in this draft class, and he's fallen on the board. He was kind of disappointing at Kentucky this past year. He's huge mountain of a man. Obviously, when you have that same thing with Jordan Davis for the Eagles, conditioning can be an issue, but if you're putting him alongside with Mason Graham, I don't think that there's going to be too much of an issue there. Now, we could look at safety. I know their safety position's pretty good, but could also still use an upgrade. At the safety spot, they only have Eric Murray and Darnell Savage. Savage has been pretty good. Eric Murray we could definitely use an upgrade there. We could still use another corner, I think. We could still double dip there, and a lot of these guys are still available. I think we could wait on that. We double dip defensive line. Definitely focused hard on the defensive line. See, offensive tackles have kind of been picked through. So this one's definitely an interesting one. This might be a trade back scenario if someone was trying to trade up for someone. Um, Looking at linebackers. Linebacker might be the move with Barrett Carter. I know he's a pretty athletic guy. I don't know too much about him, to be honest with you, but I think Barrett Carter could be an option here for us. The real question for the Jaguars I've been interested in is will they add another running back? I know Travis Etienne, he's coming up on a contract year and he's been kind of disappointing. And you still do have Tank Bigsby who's played well coming in. So I do think that a running back could be an option in there in the late rounds. Maybe it's such a deep running back class with like an Ollie Gordon. Like if he's there with the next pick, we might take him. We still do need a tight end. Jackson Hayes or Haas is still there, however you say it. I think that we're gonna go linebacker and we're gonna go Barrett Carter to add to that linebacking core that they have. With the linebacking core, they do still have Devin Lloyd and uh and then they still do have the one dude that they signed from the Falcons. I can't pronounce his name, or I'm blanking on his name completely right now. But I do think that they could still add to that linebacking core. They still need some depth there. And having a late round guy to add his depth would be great to that defense. And I think that we're going to look at tight end and or another rotational running back piece that they could end up adding. We have three picks left. I think that's two areas that we really want to hit. Hopefully Jackson is still here. He is not, but we could go with a blocking guy like a Mitchell Evans. If we're looking at running back, Trevor Etienne is still here. That would be funny to draft Trevor Etienne to replace Travis Etienne. Kobe Bryant's still here. We could double dip at corner. And I think we're just gonna go for value and we're gonna double dip at corner here and add a little bit more depth to that cornerback position here in the late round. Hopefully if Mitchell Evans is still there, he'll probably be the next pick as he gets picked again as I talk about him. So I should probably stop talking about the people that I want to draft. Looking at the tight end spot, late in the sixth round, still do have Bridgestone. Lacey is a good option. Bartholomew still here is a guy that I really like. If I'm gonna take him, I'm gonna take him with the 221 pick. Looking here, I definitely do want to add what's safety looking like. We do have Mickens. We could add another Clemson guy, Jalen Reed. Edge, we've already added to offensive line. I don't really like the offensive line class as we get down low. Lampkins is a decent little option for us. I think we're gonna go with Jalen Reed from Penn State. He's a good little high upside option at the end of the draft. And then hopefully we might be able to look at Bartholomew here. I think that we could add, I think we do need to add somebody next to Strange in the late rounds, at least someone that can at least make the roster and give us some depth. And I think that could be an option, but we're going to look at overall what we have available. Bringing still available. This would be crazy values. You know, good players usually fall in the draft. I think that's what we're going to do. Add another Clemson guy. I really do like Bartholomew. I'm not going to take him now. I'm just going to take best tight end available on the board. And this is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars draft class. I think we did a pretty good job of adding a lot of depth here and a lot of guys falling into our laps to potentially be able to fix this team and add depth to in certain positions. You know, we didn't really address the running back. We didn't address the interior of the offensive line. We did end up drafting Josh Simmons, who could probably play tackle, and then you can move Walker Little back into guard. He has experience playing guard. But here's a recap. We ended up getting Mason Graham, number 5. That's probably the most chalk pick of where the Jaguars are going to go. Josh Simmons ended up falling into our lap. We get probably a first round graded tackle. This could potentially happen on draft night. I guess it's not the most unrealistic thing because he has all the potential in the world, but he does have that injury history. So maybe he does end up falling into that 36 early second round spot just because of his injury history. Landon Jackson, he's a guy that's really only a third down pass rusher. He has his question marks. Is he going to be able to play the run? He's mostly known as that pass rushing guy. Darian Porter is a guy that's risen up a lot of boards that's been seen as someone that could go in the early second round. He has that big size to him. Isaiah Bond is a speed threat that could end up playing going against lining up with Brian Thomas, potentially being a slot guy with the speed, kind of like how the Chiefs use Xavier Worthy, kind of like that. If he end up, pulling himself back together, Deion Walker is a guy that had very high upside, and he was seen as a first round pick before the college season, and he kind of fell off, and a little bit of his size ended up being an issue. He didn't really do very well at the Senior Bowl, so as he falls down the board, you take a shot on a guy like that in the fourth round that has that pedigree that people thought could be a very good football player. Barrett Carter, don't know too much about him. Know he's a pretty good athletic guy. Kobe Bryant's a guy with high upside you take later in the draft, along with Jalen Reed. You get your secondary depth pieces that could end up busting out and being a great option for you. And at the end, you definitely do need a tight end to go along with Brendan Strange. And you go and just get the best one on the board that was projected to be around the 120 pick and ends up falling to you at 221. So this is my recap of the Jacksonville Jaguars 7 round mock draft of where I think that they should go with each pick and certain guys that could fall into their lap. Please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agree or disagree with that I talked about in here or the picks that I took, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop